Welcome to Coffee and an Interview. I'm Jacqueline Pena, and today I'm here with Darren and Margie Fink from Transfiguring Adoption. We're going to share some amazing tools, tips, and just information that I think we're all in need of hearing that we don't get a lot of exposure to when we talk about adoption, foster care, and raising or living with children who are not our own birth children. So Darren and Margie, thank you for being here with me today.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, and this is great. A Friday morning with coffee. I'm going to toss it to you both if you want to introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about yourselves, and then tell us a little bit about Transfiguring Adoption. What is this company, this nonprofit?
Go ahead and start, Margie.
All right. My name is Margie Fink. I am co-founder, Transfiguring Adoption. So our goal is to nurture growth in foster and adoptive families. And the main way we do that is through using books, movies, video games, everyday play, even things like vacations to help caregivers help children process trauma, overcome, build healthy connections and relationships.
I'm Darren Fink, and what I'll add to that is that Margie and I bring over a decade of experience being foster and adoptive parents to the table. We've also helped, we've run other nonprofit organizations and helped with nonprofit organizations where after school programs. So we've worked a lot with children from traumatic pasts together, and also Margie has her degree in psychology. And she's used that in quite a few different areas. And she's doesn't talk about it a whole lot, but she's actually created curriculum for several workshops and given workshops and teaching sessions to professionals, educators, and other foster and adoptive parents with that. And I'll throw in that I am originally an art major. I have my degree in art. I also have some counseling training. And I have authored multiple children's books.
Wow, this is like a whole toolkit of things that you're bringing to the table as a tech team.
Some of it's trial by fire stuff. So
yes. Back in 2008, 2009, we went from 0 to 4 kids in a few months' time. So, and we've parented probably around 9 total, up to 7 at a time. So lots of just kind of being thrown in and seeing what happens. And I will say with his creativity, that's what really helped us navigate a lot of that and help the kids in our home and kind of birth Transfiguring Adoption.
What made you start that leap, the adoption leap? And then what made you take that leap into Transfiguring Adoption?
So, I mean, it's a common story. Margie and I, neither one could have children. And so for us, there was a grieving process, but I think our grieving process was shorter than other couples that we've spoken with, just because we always wanted to adopt.
Yeah. Prior to finding out that we couldn't have birth children, in my childhood, even my mom had custody of one of my cousins for a while. We lived in South Korea for a while and did a lot of volunteer work in the orphanages. My dad died when I was very young. And I think the concept of being an orphan was very real to me. And I had some experiences with just other kids who were in foster care. So it was something I always had a heart for, even from a really young age. So it was kind of like the natural, we couldn't have children. So it was kind of like the kick and pants to do what we wanted to do anyways. So it was kind of just like the natural, let's just do this.
And then once we started the process, we've had someone ask us on an interview that was an adult adoptee was doing a documentary series and was asking us some different questions about our change of our ideas about foster care and adoption over the years since we had been doing it. And one thing that I think has greatly changed for us is, like a lot of people, I think, and I even told someone this yesterday, I think if you asked me 10 years ago, I think I would deny this. And I think I would say, absolutely not, this was not me. But I think subconsciously it was. A lot of people it's just common knowledge, I think, that a lot of people that get into foster care or adoption want to give children, they want to love them and they want to get that love in return. And there is a little bit of, I'm going to save this child from a horrible situation, where this side of the journey and having worked with a lot of families, I definitely don't see it that way anymore. I see it more as I'm helping a family going through a really difficult, dark time in their life. If I'm fostering, I'm really hoping that I can help enough so that that family remains intact. If the family isn't going to remain intact, I'm still trying to keep them in connection with each other. I'm still trying to help them. I'm trying to get the child. I'm journeying along with that child through a dark time in their life. It's not about me giving love and stability, although I am doing that. And it's not about me getting love in return. It's about me walking with that child through this really dark moment in their life because they're unable to have their mom or their dad with them to walk through that. So to answer the other part of your question, so Transfiguring Adoption, from that was birthed when we started to see, we were reading actually the Harry Potter series with our adoptive children around the dinner table. And we started to see that our kids were able to relate with the characters, talk about their past trauma and situations by talking about the characters. And as the kids wanted to make a family blog to communicate with other families about what they were learning and what they thought they could learn. And long story short, that caught on. We had no idea that we would hit a niche. And a lot of people became interested in this whole idea of using books to process these tough topics and tough conversations. And so it grew into Transfiguring Adoption, which Margie said earlier. Now we use all media, books, movies, video games, and everyday play to show parents how to process past trauma.
Your adopted children helped create this pathway that's now helping so many other individuals who are fostering or adopting or caring for children who they didn't give birth to, not their birth children. And it's amazing that they were part of the process. So tell me more, what kinds of things do you do in Transfiguring Adoption? What kinds of materials do you use in the process?
So our main service that we provide it organically and naturally grew out of what we were already doing is we have a media review service that people can join up with on our website. And it's amazing because immediately when I say that we have reviewers that go to the movie and they look at the movie, or like a lot of people are saying, oh yeah, it's like Common Sense Media, or it's like these other websites that I've seen one of these websites. Good gravy, hats off to their reviewers, because I know that they have like at the second, like they'll tell you like 5 minutes and 45 seconds into the movie, someone says this word, and they have a whole, and I'm like, wow, that is fantastic. I don't know how they have, I don't have the energy for that. but how we're different from these other websites that are looking at that stuff is those websites are looking at children from traditional homes and traditional upbringing. So those are parents that are trying to keep their children from being exposed to certain words, to certain themes. Our children are coming from traumatic backgrounds. So they've already been exposed to this stuff. So while we care if they're using that language or they're being exposed, it's not as imperative as other parents because they've already been exposed. Mm-hmm. What we're sending reviewers to do, and what we train reviewers to do, is to go and look at for traumatic themes. So things that are going to trigger a child and make them mentally and emotionally relive a traumatic event from their past. So, that might be like I'm thinking of the movie Dumbo, not the cartoon, but the new movie that came out. And Dumbo is, he's constantly having to see if he can get back to his mom. And it's like, it looks like he's going to get to be reunited with his mom. Nope, not going to be reunited with his mom. It looks like, that's like like kids in foster care, right? There's such a parallel there. Like, oh, yeah, you might get to go back home. Oh, nope, something changed. Oh, maybe now. Oh, nope. And that can be really traumatic. And for most parents, we're not thinking about that when we go to see a movie, or we're not thinking in a Disney movie that they use killing off a parent in almost every movie to really pull at your heartstrings. For the general public, we're thinking, wow, that really tugged at my heartstring. For our kids, it's more of a reality and more of a trigger, and it's more real life than it needs to be for them. And so our media review service, we're looking at that, trying to find the trauma triggers in there. And then we're also looking at the healthy discussion themes in there. So what can parents talk about with their kids to be able to work past trauma or work through issues so to better engage with their child. So that's probably the biggest one. Margie, do you have anything to say on that?
I think you covered that one quite well. It's an amazing service. Sometimes we've even used it as a family ourselves. In the beginning, we were creating the reviews and our kids were helping us. And now we've got other reviewers that do it. And sometimes we've sat down and watched a movie. And I know Darren not too long ago used the newer Doolittle movie and just kind of pulled out some of the questions that the reviewer had talked about and had some amazing conversations with our kids through that. But another thing that we're doing a lot of is creating workshops. So we have workshops. Some are aimed more at educators, some are aimed more at caregivers, professionals. We kind of tweak them for different avenues, whether it's dealing with trauma in the classroom. How does it impact learning? What are some things teachers need to look out for, ways they can teach to help kids who've been traumatized? What are some things parents can do, whether that's using our media review service or looking at media, how you can do that organically in a safe, non-judgmental, non-threatening way to use media to help kids deal with everyday life. And then things like vacationing with kids with special needs. How do you do that? And, using kind of our own lived experiences and experiences of other families, how do you go to the theme park with a child with autism or a child with trauma? Because it's different. Every family wants that dream vacation and to make those memories. But for a lot of families, they go on that vacation. We did it in some of our early days, coming home with some really traumatic memories and not so much fun, and going, will we ever vacation again? So different workshops that we can take different people through is something we've really been working on.
The big part about the workshops and the media review service too is so everything that we do, we're coming at this whole concept of bibliotherapy. And bibliotherapy is something that we stumbled upon when we were reading to our kids and discovered they could talk about their own lives through books and through the characters. And let me, if you guys are still listening right now, like, you have to catch this, because it's like, we've even had someone that took one of our workshops where we dive into this. And she came away and she's like, I've been following Transfiguring Adoption for a couple of years now online. And now that you guys did this workshop and taught this whole concept, it's blown my mind. Like, she's like, my mind is blown and my whole life is rocked. Like, she's like, it's making such a difference in how I'm parenting now. So bibliotherapy is not a new thing. It's just something that we stumbled upon. It's literally, when it was first being used, it was used instead of being medicated or instead of medically being treated, you were asked to discuss literature to overcome your issues and problems. It goes all the way back to the time of Aristotle. And the example that I always use is how we can use it is with our service is we use the Little Mermaid. So we have a little girl, maybe that she's in foster care, maybe she's been adopted, she's in my home. She comes from a history of not having enough food in her home, and she starts hoarding things in her bedroom. She starts hoarding food. So for us, I mean, I just want your listeners to think about it. If you go into a room all the time and it's smelly and there's decaying food and there's like, what do you do? Like, I mean, right. Who can handle, like, who wants to deal with that? Right. Like
traditional parenting, you're giving consequences, you're maybe directly confronting the issue with the child. But for our children, they're coming away feeling unsafe, scared, rejected. And like, there's something wrong with me. I am a problem. I am a mistake.
Yeah.
And I mean, and our kids are, and to add to what Margie said, our kids are just trying to survive, right? Like they in their head, they're thinking, I need food because I never had enough food. So I need a stash of food in case food runs out. And for us, we're thinking the furniture's ruined. I have to replace the carpet now. My house is getting damaged. So, I mean, there's a lot of tension on both sides. And of course, you're going to blow up at each other, and you're going to ground your child, and you're going to yell at each other. So the way that bibliotherapy helps is now we're going to, during our normal family movie night, we're going to watch The Little Mermaid. We're not doing it because we're trying to prove a point. We're not trying to do we're simply just watching The Little Mermaid and having fun, as it should be. And we watch, and Ariel has like this whole hoard full of people stuff, human stuff in a cave. So she's a hoarder. So what happens now is that after I've watched this movie, organically in conversation, I can talk with my child about, why is Ariel hoarding? Is it healthy? Is it not healthy? Did she attack? Like, we can talk about the whole issue of hoarding. And what happens is now my child and I are on the same team, and we're attacking Ariel, who is a fictitious character who can't get hurt. So we're attacking the issue. And then later on, when I find a hoard of food again, I can kind of bring up that conversation instead of yelling and say, hey, remember when we talked about that? Is this kind of like that? Like, is it? And we can work through things in a safe environment, judgment-free environment, and we can get a lot further ahead. So the workshops and the media review service are all coming at things from that point of view to show parents how to really attack things for that. And it's even leading into our new books that we have coming out. We're showing parents how to use play.
Oh, so, nice. We're going to get to the books in a minute, and extending from movies to other things like play. But I want to say you were already answering some of the questions that I had in my head. So the thing is, I love the fact that instead of me talking about the hoarding, for example, the food hoarding as your problem or our problem, and talking about you and trying to work through, you're instead having this opportunity to talk about it through another character. And then when something happens, and deal and learn together through that character, and build those lessons together, and understanding and processing that difficult information, that's really easier to do when you're looking at someone else than yourself. And then later on, making the connection to what's happening at home. When you see the hoarding, for example, the food in the room again. I love that process. And I think that's a technique that we could use for a lot of things in life, not just for the situation, but it's a beautiful process. It's bibliotherapy is something I hadn't worked with before. And having an English lit background, I can see how powerful it could be in so many different life situations when working with people. And so I love that piece of it. The other thing is there's a lot that we as the adults need. I think children and teenagers might even feel more comfortable talking about some of the trauma and some of the situations. We need to provide some outlets for that, but they might be able to express something, and we are not sure ourselves, how do we handle this? How do we talk about this? How do we, how do I talk about this trauma or this kind of trauma? Or how do I even handle, some of us might say, oh my God, curse words. How do I even handle that? And how do I have this conversation? And I love that your work focuses a lot on empowering the adults, the caretakers, in really navigating the conversations and empowering them to empower the foster youth in their homes. And I love that approach. I think it's a very unique approach, and we need that kind of support so that we can carry the work forward.
Yeah. And there's
it's organic too. So
there's an element of the children like normalizing experiences and being able to see characters, and that, hey, I'm not alone in this. And there's other people that have gone through this, because they might not be exposed to other kids in their situation. And just being able to find language, or being able to point to a character, they might not be able to, like we've seen it in some of our own kids, not being able to express how they feel or what emotions they're going through, or the complexities of having competing emotions, and being able to point to a character and saying, that's what I feel. And developing some of that language, emotional IQ kind of skills that they might be lacking in. There's so much power.
The language, the emotional IQ, it's very, very empowering. Tell us a little bit more about, so I guess we were going to go into the books themselves, and then I wanted to talk about a couple of other related topics, but tell us more about Transfiguring Adoption and the toolkits that you provide, the books and other toolkits.
Mostly, I'll just tell you about the books that we're doing right now. And I think that'll be really interesting, I think for you, for your listeners. Actually, I know it will be. So our books, we started writing books, and they came out of just things that I created as an art major. It was really surprising to me that we had children coming into our home that didn't know how to play. And I know some of your listeners are probably like, oh, of course kids know how to play and different things like, but it, if you have been a child that you didn't have a safe adult on duty and you had to take the role as the adult in your home, what happens is play, as I found it, is almost like working out at a gym. Like your muscles either grow or they atrophy depending on how you use them. So you have sophisticated play and you have very archaic play. And what happens that I find is a lot of kids that were coming into our homes at whatever age is they were having more archaic play because they had to be the adult on duty in their home. So they didn't have a chance to use and flex that play muscle. So what happened is they weren't able to play games. They weren't able to do things like they would rather play with doorknobs or like, and we're talking just
Things
use the
that they
doorknob.
had that they were exposed to that they, you know, there are
Like-
things that you think like playing with a car is innate, right? They go beep, beep, you know, you zoom around, they drive.
Like a toy car, yeah.
But like if you've never played with a toy car before, that might be a projectile, and give me that pen because I've seen one of those, or the doorknob, or the car seat that I can buckle and unbuckle, like as we're driving down the interstate, you know?
Right. So, I mean, it was really surprising to me. So we just started, so with our kids, we just started pretending and making up these magical creatures that lived around the house. And the creatures not only were good for pretend, but they were good for like, they would help with things like night terrors or food issues or sensory issues, or helping them to self-regulate themselves and different things like that. And we were just playing games. And so what happened is as our kids went to different therapists, the therapists were picking up on these ideas that we were using, and they kept encouraging us, you need to put this in a book, you need to put this in a book. Mm-hmm. And for me, I fought it for probably about a decade because that's why the books are just now coming out, because for me, they were happy moments with my children. And if you're a foster adoptive parent, or if you're working with a kiddo with adverse childhood experiences, you know that there are so many times where you're working through issues, or you think you're getting somewhere and then you take 2 steps backwards. And so for me, I didn't want to lose those happy moments by throwing them out in the public limelight and then people being like, this is stupid. But it hasn't been the case at all. We've actually only, like, the critics have been very amazing with us, and they've gotten rave reviews. But so that's what we've done. So the first book that we came out with is called A Guide to Magical Creatures Around Your Home, a Playful Engagement Guide. And it's literally just set up like a field guide where it takes you through these it explains these magical creatures that might live around your house. And it's meant to be experienced with a child and a safe, caring adult. So it's not just something that you give your kid and say, here, read this. It's something that you do together, and you read it chapter by chapter, and it gives you I have teachers, and I'm talking even high school teachers are adapting this to work. I would say probably upper elementary to lower middle school is what it's probably written for, but I have people saying they're adapting it quite easily.
And even preschool teachers and
preschool,
caregivers.
So it really, the big thing I keep hearing professionals and parents telling me is that it gives them enough ideas for play because they've forgotten how to play.
The magic is not necessarily the book itself. In the back of the book, there's a downloadable parent guide. And so for each creature, there's at least 3 activities. Some of them are more crafty, some of them are more like bonding things, sensory activities, but all of them target whether it's a food issue, whether it's a sensory issue, some like fear of water, fear of going to sleep, nightmares, those kinds of things. Each creature targets that. And then the parents can come in with these playful activities afterwards, and the kids don't see this. So they're just like playing, having fun, but it's very targeted, very like it's organic, but at the same time, the parents are specifically working towards some kind of goal.
And just to give so that's a great thing.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And just to give an example of it, we have we have one child that was suffering from night terrors. And other countless kids probably that are parents that are listening right now that have kids that are scared to go to sleep at night because of things that have happened to them. So we have a little creature called a dipsy toad, and he literally is just a little toad with a crescent moon on his forehead. And if it licks you. Our kids would call it the dipsy kiss. If it licks you, the saliva magically gives you good dreams all night long. And so, like, the funny part is, I can remember our kids going out and searching for this thing and our kids weren't little at the time either. Like, we had some older kids, and they were just like, "Let's go find one." And they were like hours of fun. So, but the activity that goes along with that is literally just asking a parent, "Hey, can you take some lavender scented lotion, put it in a little, like a fun container that looks like a little potion bottle or something, and then when your child is laying in bed, sit down next to them, put a little on your hand, continue the play, tell them that we read about this in the book. This is what it is. And then asking their permission. So that gives them voice. Like, can I put this on you? Can I put it on your arm? Can I put it on your head? And then you're literally just massaging this lotion into their arms, into their cheeks, into their forehead. And what is that doing? It's giving them a sensory experience. The lavender is helping to calm them down and promoting them to go to sleep. And you're asking them, do you want me to rub your hand harder? Do you want me to? So you're giving them voice. So they're giving permission how hard to touch them, and they're getting that input to the tactile input and stuff like that. So it's literally, you're just helping them go to sleep, but for them it's a game. And it's not just, I've had people say, "This is awesome because my child wanted to do this and they fell right asleep." Where normally, like, for a lot of parents, like, sleep time, getting kids to get into bed and go to sleep is like a big deal. But because you're playing to get them into bed, it's easier. So that's just an example of it. And the whole book reads that way, where it just has different activities and stuff like that. So that one's a lot of fun. That one's already out on Amazon and on our website.
Perfect, because I was going to say in the resource
I don't think it's
section,
it's kind of,
oh, Margie?
not, Amazon's a little funky right now. We're doing some things with our distributors, so it's actually better to go to our website for that.
Okay, and we'll put I was gonna say, we'll have the resources for all of our listeners in the description, with actual links taking you directly to the book and the website and any other resources related to this conversation. So that's one of the things that I love to do, is put those links right there for you. But there's I can see Margie's psychological magic combined with Darren's creative aspect coming together, because I was going to say, in terms of just the example you gave, using the consent piece, giving children a voice in a process, all these pieces that are coming together in the toolkit for parents or for the adults or their caregivers, you're bringing all these different things together that are very empowering. And you don't see that very often. You might get the book and a website with a few tips of, here's what you could do when you read the book, or things of that. So here you're saying, we're giving you the book, which has this purpose, and we're giving you this toolkit, and here's some examples. And I think that will help a lot of people be able to use this, even with their own kids. I just saw some great things I can use with my nieces and nephews.
No, and that's been the fun part with that. It's been fun to watch educators and just other, like, we've had other parents just say, this is just good etiquette learning. Like, it's just good common sense learning just for our own children just to learn. Mm-hmm. So it's been amazing. The other book I'll tell you about is, it comes out, it hasn't, so when we filmed this or recorded this together, it hasn't been released yet. It's officially being released in October 19th. It's a novel called Grit's Hope. This one is, the appeal for this one, I think, is that it's for families that are coping with ACEs or foster care or adoption, but it's targeted at middle school students and possibly up to lower high school. And that's not an age range that's normally targeted with books. Usually they're little picture books for elementary school kids, but this one is targeting middle school all the way up to high school kids. So Grit's Hope is a fictional novel, and it's taking the other book that we have that's a playful activity book. This one's actually a story, and it's taking those characters, it's putting them in a story format. We had so many people say, hey, the activity book is great. Can we have a story with these characters so we can get to learn about them more? Like, we want to understand them more, see their characters, see how their emotions. Yeah, we want to connect with them. So that's kind of where this came from. And so it's about a little boy named Gruitt. He's in foster care with his two older siblings. They're moving into their new foster home, and they discover that the foster parents have a secret. They have magical creatures that live around their house. And Gruitt's also going to have to deal with bullying in the book. And he's also going to have to deal with racial prejudice. Because he's moving to a rural community that's mostly white, and he's of mixed race. So he has to deal with that at school, that he doesn't look like the other kids. And one girl in particular at school, it gives him a rough time, and finds out that he is in foster care, and gives him an even rougher time because he's in foster care. So the fun part about it is it's a really entertaining book. So it's written so that anyone can read it. This is not just a foster care adoption thing. This is
Adults
anyone.
are reading it and say it's
Adults
not even
are
their
grabbing
genre, and they're getting hooked on it and really enjoying it.
So, but the fun part for our family is when we're working with kids with traumatic backgrounds, with ACEs or foster care adoption, is they can see themselves in the character. So they're able to look at Gruitt and the situations he's going through, and they can say, "That's me. That's what I understand that. That's my situation," and it normalizes their situation for them. So we've had folks even from the National Foster Care. I'm losing the
and National Foster Parent Association.
National Foster Parent Association has given it 2 thumbs up, and they've said that it's amazing. All the folks that are giving endorsements in right now are just are raving about it and saying that it's a fantastic book. So I'm looking forward to that.
It's been called kind of a mashup between Chronicles of Narnia and Harry Potter. So it's kind of along those lines. Get that adventure and that just magical fun.
That's a nice little comment on that.
Yeah, no, it's right now. If people do a search for it, so it's on social media. Do a search for it. If you get in early enough, I'm not sure how soon this is coming out, but we have a launch party that's coming out soon for the book, so that people can they can read samples of the chapters with a group of people before the general public gets access to them. We're really excited. And if they complete everything and go through us with the launch party, which is online, they will be able to get the first 2 chapters of the next book. So they'll be able to see how the next book is going to start already. So there
is a next book already in the works.
There is a next book already. Yeah, so if all goes well, this is going to be a 3-book series for Gruitt. There is talk. Man, I don't think we've talked about this anywhere else. you're getting some insider
I'm getting exclusive information.
Seriously. So
depending on the reception.
Depending on the reception, which if it's going like Gruitt's Hope, it's going to be great. So Gruitt and his siblings are going to have 3 books dedicated to their adventures and journey through foster care. If you remember the series, The Babysitter's Club, they always had it was a ton of books, but it was always there was a different babysitter each book. And so you kind of had a different situation. There's a potential that we're going to actually, Gruitt and his siblings' adventure will end with Mr. and Mrs. Wonder, but Mr. and Mrs. Wonder will be taking more kids into their home, and then they'll have new adventures and new books. So we'll see. It's up to you guys. If you're listening, it's up to you. The popularity determines it. So head over and start following the social media and hitting emojis and go nuts. The more you go nuts, the more I'll write.
I think that motivates us to get out there and get those bucks. For sure.
Absolutely.
I think these are powerful stories. And I know that our topic was around, foster youth and adoptive youth. And we've expanded to tools that I think help a broader group of caretakers, to be very honest, even the aunties of the world, thinking about myself. And I think that they help with a lot of different challenges. And I thought this would be a good time to maybe talk about any challenges, the top challenge that you've seen in your foster adoptive youth or in the caretaker side, and the tools that you can have to for those challenges, or any advice for those challenges, and any other advice in general for whether you're a foster youth listening to this, or adopted youth listening to this, or a caretaker or a parent. I mean, your tools really can help a much greater group of people, but any advice, any top challenges and advice for those challenges, and just any general advice for us?
The top thing for caregivers that I can see that happens a lot is the sense of isolation. So there are a lot of times that I'm seeing caregivers so many times, and I mean, I think Margie and I are guilty of it too, is you think you need to have it all together, or you think because you don't hear anyone else talking about certain issues or different things. And so you think you have to have it all together. You don't think, or you've tried to be vulnerable before and people have kind of thrown it back at your face. And giving you the answers like, well, you knew you were getting into this, you signed up for it, or different responses. And then so that just makes you never want to share again. And you become this island and isolate yourself. And that's when things are going to start to go wrong, because that's when you're going to get depressed. That's when you're going to resent your kids. That's when there's just nothing good that comes of it. So I would have to say, to all my caregivers that are listening, whether that's foster care, whether that's adoption, whether you have a kiddo that is autistic, whether you're going through a messy divorce and you're figuring out life as a single parent now, you have to share your experiences and find those people that will listen and not make you feel like a horrible person. And then hold on to those people, and then maybe let some other people go and grieve that loss. But you have to find those people that you can talk to, and they're not going to shirk away from stuff. As far as I'll throw out to adoptees, we as foster and adoptive parents are constantly listening for your voices, and former foster youth too, because we don't want to make the same mistakes that other people have made while parenting you. And so one thing that I would advise them is Margie and I have so many adult adoptees and former foster youth that we ask questions, and we're going to do a project, or we ask them questions like, is this okay? Are we being relevant? Are we being, sensitive to issues? Make sure that you understand how you're communicating yourself, and make sure that you're able to articulate what adoptive children and foster children need, and be able to communicate it well and without the pain of your past. Be able to do that well, because we're listening and we want to hear what you have to say. Communication
is key, but I know it's one of the most difficult things for a lot of us. It's communication. Then if you're a foster youth or you're an adopted youth, and especially if you had trauma before, I can see how it can be complicated, but it's so important for this relationship. We're working together. So communication is definitely
absolutely.
I will say, one of the reasons we really, really felt the passion to do a lot of the things we've been doing is that 50% of caregivers quit the first year. Foster parents get licensed, and they feel ill-equipped and overwhelmed, and they give up. And when that happens, those kids get bounced again, and we add more trauma. And there's so many compounding factors to that. And we see why it happens. I can 100% identify and say, I can see how you can go, you know what, I can't do this. And a lot of times people will start to say, hey, I want to do this. And they'll start asking us some questions, and we talk to them a little bit about some of the things they might experience. And they're like, oh, hey, I don't think I want to do that. And we're like, you know what, maybe you shouldn't, because not everybody should do it. In all honesty, there are days when we go, maybe we weren't cut out for this, but I think, there are so many ways to support and to be involved without necessarily being the direct caregiver. But I think a lot of times there are books, there are resources out there. As the caregiver, you have to be like a lifelong learner. you have to be flexible, you have to, and always be learning more and more and more. How can I advocate? How can I help? How can I, there's so much that's coming out just even in the last couple of decades, learning about trauma, learning about how it impacts behavior, and shifting some of those perspectives from, this behavior into, instead of a what's wrong with you, into what happened to you, what happened to me, because as the caregiver, I have to understand my own trauma and deal with it. And so like, we'll look at not just the kids' books, but we do have a part of our resources that are, what are some great books for the caregivers? What are books that will, one, kind of help you understand the why and the science and the neuroscience and all those kinds of things. And then the practical, how do I parent this child? Because it's different. We have to come at it in a different way. So that's another part of, one of the things that we do. We have a whole list of resources for caregivers that are directly, it's the A to Z of therapeutic parenting book, and the connected child, and adopting the hurt child, things like that, that we're looking at for the caregivers to go, okay, how can I learn myself to help empower this child?
That statistic was, I didn't realize, I hadn't even thought about that, how we add trauma if we decide to become a foster parent and then realize 6 months, a year in, we can't do this. And then the child is displaced again and all that. And I'm also thinking, some of us have our own trauma and our own things that we need to work through, and we might not have done that. And if we can't look at that ourselves and work through some of that, or at least be able to communicate what we're thinking or feeling as we approach different situations, it just makes the whole relationship much more complicated in the whole process. So I think it's important to know that you can contribute in other ways. If you're not ready to be a foster parent and you've been thinking about it, you can work with nonprofits, you can do other kind of work, but you don't have to do that yet. And to look at yourself as well, you're part of this relationship and you need to look at that. And again, going back to Darren's former comment, communication, not just the child, but also the caregiver.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Great advice. Any other thoughts, any other advice or final thoughts? Is there something you want to share that I didn't get to ask, but you're like, oh, this is very important, we need to get that out there?
I wanted to let everyone know that so our media review service that we have on our website, you can get to it by going to transfiguringadoption.com/subscribe. If you would go there and click on the premium membership subscription, enter the coupon code FIRST FREE. That's the number one
ST.
STFREE. Yep, number one STFREE, all capitalized. Enter that into the coupon code spot, and you get 1 month free to go around our database and check things out. You can download things, cancel it before the month's over. You still get to keep all the stuff you downloaded. So that would be amazing. Also, go over to I'd love for everyone to follow our social media. For Transfiguring Adoption, it's at Transfigure Adopt, TRANSFIGUR, Adopt. And we're on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok. We're also Magical Creatures, the books. You can go follow them. It's Magical Creatures without the last E. And follow them on social media on Facebook and Instagram. That would help out a lot.
Oh, it's amazing that we can be a part of both worlds on social media. And all of these links will be listed in the description section. So you can go into the description, see the links, depending on the software you're using or the platform, you'll be able to click on the links or just copy and paste into your web browser.
Absolutely.
Wow, Margie, Darren, this was a great way to start my day. Let me tell you, I had a cup of coffee, jumped into this amazing podcast interview, and learned so much about the world of foster care adoption, but more about communication, support, and working together, the child and the caretaker in any kind of relationship. But I keep saying that, but I'm also thinking, as a teacher with my students, as, maybe I'm working in an after school program and I have students there as well. I mean, there are tools here that can just work across so many different platforms and scenarios. The aunties of the world like me who love to have kids sleep over all the time, and there are things that we could do there as well. The work you're doing is absolutely amazing. It's very unique. The bibliotherapy aspect, the combination of the workshops and the books really bring it together, and you're empowering both youth and the caretakers. And I just have to say again, it's a unique approach, and the information is very useful. No, it doesn't matter what's going on in our lives. We're all caretakers in some way. And I think that this can be used in different formats. So thank you so much for being here today with me.
Thank
you so much. It's been fun being with everyone.
Yeah, it's been an amazing day. I'm looking forward to magical creatures.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Yeah, definitely come. I can't wait for everyone to go on adventures with grit. So definitely head over to magicalcreatures.com and without the last E and check it out.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thanks.
Thanks.